Okay. Well, I've got my little opening remarks here. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the go-to meeting of the subcommittee, uh, June 3rd at 9 a.m. Uh, I would like to call this virtual meeting of the Virginia Soil and Water Conservation Board Audit Subcommittee to order. As you are aware, our scheduled meetings for this spring were canceled due to the COVID-19 restrictions. Generally, public bodies are prohibited from meeting electronically under the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. However, emergency language approved by the Governor and General Assembly in April allows us to move forward with certain restrictions that I will outline below. Before I review those provisions, please let me take a moment to review how this meeting will work. We want to allow for participation by board members, staff, and members of the public who wish to comment. However, it is essential that we are able to manage the conversation effectively. I am sharing this meeting today from my home in Abingdon. In the DCR offices in downtown Richmond are Christine Walthington, Michael Fletcher, and Blair Gordon. They will assist with presentations, responding to comments, and the overall coordination of the meeting. Please be patient with all of us as we work through this. We understand and appreciate the challenges. Chapter 1283 of the 2020 Acts of Assembly, also known as the Caboose Bill, includes language addressing the ability of public bodies to conduct electronic meetings without the need for a quorum being present in a single physical location. This language was submitted as an amendment by the Governor and approved by the General Assembly at their April 22, 2020 reconvened session. The Governor subsequently signed the Caboose Bill, and the bill was effective as of April 24th of 2020. The Caboose Bill allows public bodies to hold electronic meetings when the Governor has declared a state of emergency pursuant to Code 44-146-17. If the nature of the declared emergency makes it impractical or unsafe for the public body or governing board to assemble in a single location, or the purpose of the meeting is to discuss or transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the public body and the discharge of its lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. The Caboose Bill also has language regarding recordings and transcriptions of electronic meetings. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded. This recording will be available to the public through the DCR website. The comments in the chat room will also be preserved as a public record. Official minutes of this meeting will be drafted and posted in accordance with regular procedures. The Caboose Bill does not allow the board to hold an electronic meeting to discuss or transact business for any purpose. Rather, they may do so as long as the agenda items that the public body plans to make up are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and discharge lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. You will note that the original agenda was amended to comply with this language. It is the subcommittee's responsibility to determine whether the nature of the declared emergency makes it impractical or unsafe for the public body or governing board to assemble in a single location. At the conclusion of my remarks, I will ask for a motion for the subcommittee to make this determination. If that motion fails, this electronic meeting will end at that point. The Caboose Bill requires compliance with the provisions of Code 2.2-3708.2. Therefore, in accordance with 2.2-3708.2 D2, public bodies must include a telephone number that may be used to notify the public body of an interruption in the telephonic or video broadcasting of this meeting. In the event that a disruption occurs, participants should contact Mr. Fletcher by phone or text at 804-317-8934. Additionally, if there is an interruption in the broadcast, the meeting must be suspended until public access is restored. Those provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act not addressed by the Caboose Bill remain in effect. Before we continue with the business portion of the meeting, I will ask Mr. Fletcher to call the roll for subcommittee members and anticipated staff. Other participants will be reported through the chat window. If you are participating by phone and your name is not called, please call or text Mr. Fletcher at 804-317-8934. In addition, if at any time you lose connection or are unable to connect, please contact Mr. Fletcher at the same number. I will now turn to Mr. Fletcher for the calling of the roll.
Ms. Smith? Oh, we have to unmute.
Here.
Mr. Newton?
Present.
And agency staff, Ms. Watlington?
Here.
Mr. Glover?
Present.
Baxter?
Present.
Ms. Gordon?
Present.
And Director Chrisman?
Cindy, Lisa and I are on the phone, Clyde said, but cannot hear.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Now I'll read out the, if we could have a motion, and here's our motion. If the subcommittee of the Virginia Soil and Water Conservation Board certifies the nature of the declared COVID-19 emergency makes it impractical or unsafe for the board to assemble in a single location, and further that the agenda items to be taken up at this meeting are necessary to continue operations and discharge lawful duties and responsibilities of the board. Do I hear that motion?
I would make such a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is Cindy Smith.
All right, that was a motion made by Mr. Charles Newton, seconded by Cindy Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed likewise. Motion carries. Okay, I want to explain further how we will handle participation by subcommittee members, staff, and the public. Everyone except the individual presenting materials for an agenda item will be muted. Once the presentation is completed, the board members and only board members will be unmuted for the discussion. Michael, Christine, and Blair will assist me with ensuring members are recognized when they have questions or comments. As needed, staff will be unmuted to address questions or concerns. Members of the public will be able to ask questions and provide input by utilizing the chat box function only. As time allows, we will respond to those questions and comments. We will now proceed with the business of the subcommittee as outlined on the agenda. Does everyone have their agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
First item on the agenda is call to order and introductions. Determination by board that holding an electronic meeting is appropriate, which we just approved. Okay. Do we need to go through introductions?
No.
Michael?
We've already taken care of that.
We've already taken care of that when we called roll down. Okay. First item is approval of the minutes of the December 11th, 2019 meeting. Did everybody receive a copy of those? You should have.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion that the minutes be approved.
I'll second that.
Hey, Cindy made the motion to approve the minutes and seconded by Charles. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed likewise. Motion carries. Review of the 2019 audit results. Approval of district audit result notification letters.
Okay, can everybody, can people hear me, or do I need to move the phone closer?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Perfect. You all have the table, the summary table that we received from the auditors. And you should have copies of the draft draft letters. At this point, we're going to ask you to send 2 letters, a general notice letter, and then a special letter for Mountain Castles. Just to give you a little bit of background, audits were conducted for 24 districts for the time frame July 1st, 2018 through June 30th of 2019. The new auditing firm is Clayton Lawson Allen. They are under contract for 2 years, and we have the option to renew 3 times for 2 years each. Audits occurred in February and March of this year, and that was in part due to delays during the procurement process. Within that general notification letter are some common findings that were found sort of across the board by the auditors. One is the need for districts to check and make sure that every part of the cost share contract is signed. There were several instances where Part 3 specifically of the contracts were not signed. Also, districts are exempt from paying sales tax, and that needs to be more closely monitored and adhered to. There is a process through the Department of Taxation to have that verified that you are exempt from sales tax. Realize it's another step, but they do need to stop paying taxes at places they regularly shop. Now, that does not mean that on a way to an educational event, if you suddenly run out of markers, that we're going to expect that you have been on file with that retailer and not paid sales tax. But for businesses that are regularly shopped at by the district, they should be on file as being exempt from sales tax. The thing that's in the general notice is just the need to make sure that there's a proper reconciliation of accounts and that those processes are adhered to. There were items that were observed as or classified as observations, and those were just more overall administrative management of districts. One of the things that's repeatedly mentioned on there is that districts complete a total inventory of the assets, including the time frame, the value. That just paints a clearer picture of the assets of the district. In several instances, observations occurred once during the audit, and the district was able to provide documentation to verify that the observation was addressed on site. There are 2 districts that had more specific findings. One was Clinch Valley. They actually incurred an annual fee on a credit card, which is prohibited. However, that has been addressed. I actually have, they have sent a copy of the letter from the company issuing the credit card saying they have refunded the amount of the annual fee and they have changed the account type for the district to ensure they do not incur any annual fees in the future. We are handling Mountain Castles a little bit differently. We're recommending that a letter is sent out from the audit subcommittee. But there are a couple things we took into consideration, especially this year, given the public health emergency. One, given the time frame of all of this, including this meeting, the district truly doesn't have time to develop a performance improvement plan and implement any changes before a special audit would occur. A special audit would typically occur September, October, even November, sometime later this fall. There just isn't time for the district to implement any changes, so the likelihood of them finding something different isn't incredibly good. Also, there has been a significant change in staff that could potentially impact some of these findings. So we're recommending that a letter is issued from the audit subcommittee, basically stating all of this, but also providing a warning that the items that came to attention this audit cycle will be specifically looked for in their next regular audit and will be highlighted. So they will be under additional scrutiny for these items. That gives them awareness that these were cited in their audits, and also gives them adequate time to change policies, procedures, and address these concerns before they have another audit. So that's sort of my overview. I don't know if there's questions.
So you're recommending sending Just Mountain Castle a letter?
There are two letters. So one's a general notification letter that sort of does general, this is overall what we found, which go to all of the districts that were audited this year. That's the one for Mountain Castles that outlines what was found and provides that warning.
Okay.
Christine, do I understand that the general letter goes to all districts to warn them about the kinds of things that were found in the audit?
Let me double check with Blair.
Christine, this is Blair. Yeah, yes, the general letter goes to all 47 districts. And it's kind of a way of saying like, hey, this is some of this common stuff we're seeing. So, you know, it's a good way, now's a good time to go back and check your processes to make sure that, you know, you're going to be clean in your upcoming audit.
Thank you, and I'd be willing to make a motion that both of those letters be sent, including the warning to Mountain Castles that they should take extra care to correct those issues.
Okay, a motion was made to send all districts a general letter and then Mountain Castle a warning letter. Is there a second?
Second.
Echo didn't it? Motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion passes. Next on my agenda is our next meeting, September 2020.
Yes, I don't have a date. That would just be typically when you all would meet, would be in September. We should have the results of the assessments for the grant deliverables by then. So that's just the schedule you all are on.
So you'll update us at when that meeting will be. I guess we'll know whether it'll be in person or it'll be like what we're doing now at a later date as well.
Correct. I have no earthly idea.
Well, is there any further business for the audit subcommittee this morning?
To my knowledge, there's
It did look like, from what you sent the other day, Christine, that the other districts that we've been working with have made a lot of improvements and look like they're coming along like they should be from last year that we found, which is good.
You are right. Just have done an amazing amount of work to address many of the routine and repeated findings we have had, and they're to be commended for that.
Yes, I mean, it looked like they have really taken things seriously, which they should, but they have really did a tremendous job from what I read over of getting things straightened out and moving forward. So We want to applaud them for that as well. Well, if there's no further business, I guess we will adjourn this meeting of the Audit Subcommittee, which I think went very well for our first electronic meeting, especially my first electronic meeting. I've had a lot of conference calls, but not electronic meetings until now. So hopefully our board meeting will go as well as our subcommittee meeting here at 10 o'clock. But there being no more further business of the subcommittee, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
You might contact Mike Harrell.
Talk to you soon. Thanks.
He knows the workaround. Clyde, if you cannot unmute, do you want to delegate your comments, reports to Russ? So why don't you sign out and leave this meeting, open the new one, and see if you can get Clyde to talk in that venue before
Are you
we kick off at 10 o'clock.
Are you recording? You have this.
When you actually end the full session, it will